Hey guys, okay, so the third and final part to this lesson, they only accept what empowers you, and we're gonna talk about, like, once you've identified these beliefs, these big rocks that you're carrying through life that are controlling the things that you do, even if it's just subconscious. We need to work out how we can kind of ditch them, and sometimes it can be tough because these little buggers are really dug in tight sometimes. It's things we pick up these beliefs because of three factors really, and the three factors are if these things are said to us or we experience these things with impact. So there's a real bang, a real big event. We kind of remember that, we hold on to it. Um, if we get told these things by someone in authority, a teacher, a parent, a policeman, even a bloody astronomist or whatever they're called, anyone with some kind of authority or someone that we trust or, we sort of, we look to and for advice and all this kind of stuff, we believe that, we hold on to what they say. And the other thing is repetition. How often do we hear it? If you go through your childhood and it's like, if you're still hungry, get yourself some bread and jam. That's what my mum used to say to me, and I created this belief where it's like, right, okay, well, if you're still hungry, get yourself some bread and jam, get yourself some bread. It became the default setting. And what made it worse was I didn't realise what being hungry meant. I was actually eating so quick and eating so much that I didn't understand the signals that I was getting. And as well as that, in modern day life, we get confused over the feelings that we get. Sometimes we can feel embarrassed, and that feels like hunger. We translate that as hunger. Sometimes we can be ashamed, and that can translate as hungry, or we can be mad or sad or just a little bit down, and we translate all those feelings, which are basically chemicals within the body, as hunger. It just feels like hunger because that's, we're not really educated, or not that we're educated, but we don't understand the messages in our body. Years and years and years ago, like hundreds of millions of years ago, we understood because there was no TV, there was no smartphones, there was no media, there was no traffic, there was no driving, life, there's no houses. Life was just so much more simple that the only thing we could do was be really, really in tune with who we were, and what these chemical messages meant. We've lost that now because life is so complex. So we understand that these can be pretty well dug in. And what I'm going to talk about is just one way in which you can start to release some of these things. And when Paula does this, when she teaches this session at camp, she usually gets them to write their limiting beliefs and all this kind of stuff on a brick, something quite heavy, or a log or something like that. And ultimately what she's teaching them is like, right, you can carry this brick round all day with this belief, or you can decide in the morning to leave it behind, so you haven't got the embuggerance of carrying it around. So she will get them to do this. What she'll also get them to do is carry it down to the river and chuck it in the river. You make a decision to ditch it, and quite often it is a decision. Right now, if you're struggling, if you're thinking, well, I can't because I truly believe it and all this kind of stuff, I get that. I understand it. I've seen it time and time again. The next level then, once you've sort of thought, right, okay, can I leave this behind? Do I pledge never to believe this again because it just simply does not empower me? The next step is to have a look at it. Think about the belief and where it's come from, and ask yourself what you've failed to learn. What lesson have you missed from it? Because usually when we're reminded of these beliefs and all this kind of stuff, we've got this open loop where we haven't really learned anything. We're going over old ground. So once you identify what the lessons are, you kind of free yourself up because you're like, that, right, I get it now. Right, now I'm able to move on. It's like closing the loop. You no longer have to keep going through this cycle because you've closed it. You understand it. You know what it is. You can park it. You can shelf it. Whatever, fairy thing you want to say. That's Paula's kind of bag. But you can just put it to bed. In my terminology. Let's pick out an example. So let's say that you was told that you was. Let's have a little. So ugly. You're ugly. I know this doesn't really relate to food, but in some respects, we're talking about the drivers to eat. And if you think you're ugly, if you've been told you're ugly, I mean, I was told I was an ugly baby, and it stuck with me for a long time. Mum, if you ever watch this, you did some damage there, like, but but you kind of carry that with you, and sometimes these drivers, these negative beliefs, can be the things that are fueling your overeating, because it's like, well, everyone's ugly, I need to cheer myself up, right, I'll have a bit of food. It's the default setting, as we always say. So it is relevant. So if you get told you're ugly, what are the lessons there? You can kind of think about it, and it might take a little bit of thought, as to, where did it come from? Who's told you that? What was going on at the time? What was the context of the statement or the event? And, what is the real lesson? What is the real lesson there? And I mean, I don't really know. I mean, my lesson was, the lesson I learned was that, my mum did think I was an ugly baby. But on the flip side of that, she now thinks I'm a handsome man, because I was. Her statement was, you was an ugly baby. And humans being humans change. And if anything, we're transient. We move around, and we do different stuff. And I'm an adult now. So my lesson is that was then, that was in the past. And now I'm in the future, so it can be different. And the thing is, like, we have got a whole host of really, really powerful, really important lessons that we've had in our past, but we've got a lot of shit as well. And we just, usually what happens is we bring everything with us. Like, you imagine if you was going on holiday, and you've got like 20 suitcases full of shit, and you don't need half of it. The lessons you need, bring the important stuff, like your bloody bikini, your swimming shorts, your tanning lotion, whatever it is. If you're Paula, the whole wardrobe with about 1 million pairs of shoes, bring that essential stuff. Leave the other stuff, and it is literally just a decision, like sorting it out. And once you become aware of these things that have been holding you back, and you decide, look, like this dove on the screen, I'm just going to let this go. You can then start to make real progress. You can then start to build a real positive outlook on life and everything that you're doing. So I know for some people watching this, they might be going, oh, this is a bit airy-fairy and all this kind of stuff. But this is powerful stuff. I mean, when I was in the Marines, things were binary. It was black and white, and there was no such thing as spiritual. There was no spiritual stuff. There's no like airy fairy, law of attraction, all this kind of stuff. There's guns and there's bombs and there's missions and all this kind of stuff. And it didn't get me anywhere. It did not get me anywhere. Only when I started to embrace this stuff did my life change. And Paula brought a lot of these things into my life and helped me sort of practice it on a daily basis. Things like gratitude and appreciation and really looking at these beliefs and challenging them. And I'm a different person now, and we often joke that when my mum comes to stay with us, my mum will say to Paula, yeah, well, I know our Craig, and that's what, he wouldn't really do that. That's not really what he do. My mum doesn't really know me. I'm a completely different person now compared to what I was. Because she knows me. She knows me as a person, but she doesn't know how I'm going to react to stuff. She doesn't know how, what my plan is for the future and how I look at stuff now. And actually, what's happened recently is my mum will come and see me a lot and look for advice, look for a bit of counsel, really, and chat through her problems, because I think she kind of realises now that I'm not going to engage in gossip. I'm not going to just slag things off. I'm going to give her practical advice, or I'm going to make her think about her thinking. This is what it's about. You've got this thinking, and the thinking is the problem. But in some respects, it's your thinking about the thinking that's the problem. So we need to change the way that we do this, the kind of way that we think. And we can do that by releasing a lot of these limiting beliefs. So I'm really interested in kind of what you think about this, and what you've sort of picked out and what you've worked out sort of leaves you charged and like, yes, come on, we can do this, and what batters you down and what you bully yourself with, because we often do that with our internal dialogue. We beat ourselves up and sometimes we take on comments and statements and all this from other people, but we don't have to carry that through life. You know, we can, like the brick or the log or whatever, we can wake up in the morning and decide we're going to leave this. Even if we get in the car with it on the way to work, we can get out the car and, you know what, I refuse to take this in with me. I'm going to put it in the boot and it's staying there, and I'm going to live guilt-free, hate-free, negativity-free. I'm just going to be free of these beliefs about all these things that people have told me, or these events that I've had in the past. And you know, and I keep saying events, and I talk about statements people make, but you know, quite often events can be really, really powerful. When I was an infant, I got my head stuck in the railings, really embarrassing. There's other stories as well that was just absolutely stayed with me and have affected a lot of the things that I do in adult life now. You know, only when you start going through this release process do you start getting rid of that anchor that's holding you back and allows you to take flight, really, like the dove there on the picture. So, a great little finish. Your homework then is to really look into your limiting beliefs, the negative beliefs that you identified in your little magnetic beliefs worksheet, which I've carried the name on, and have a little think. You know, do you decide to take them with you or not? If not, what is the lesson that you've still to learn from that? Now, I'm pretty sure in the future we're going to do a whole series of webinars on this, because this is one of the hardest things. You know, some people cannot release this stuff. They refuse. And we talk about secondary gain. And in this course, we're going to talk about secondary gain. Secondary gain is something that you're getting from this habit or belief that you're not prepared to give up yet. You know, and it doesn't matter how many sort of coaching sessions you have and how much work you do with worksheets, until you're prepared to give that up and change it, or at least acknowledge what you're getting from it, we're not going to make progress. Okay, so constantly be aware of secondary gain and kind of what you're getting, and be honest, because remember, there is no change without honesty, and we need to be hitting those deep rooted roots on the tree of truth. Okay, so brilliant. Okay, I've really enjoyed doing this lesson this week. Paula's insights, I know she's really, she loves teaching this whole session, so her insights is going to be pretty phenomenal, which is obviously going to be the next video after this. So until that, keep pushing on, keep chipping away at anything that is not the perfect you. See you in the next course.